All right, for those who are tuning in for the recording version, thanks for listening to our Candid Talks with Grads, Parents, and Caregivers. This is quite a short overview of some of the issues that we've seen that parents have mentioned and some struggles with graduate school while being parents and caregivers, as well as some of the resources that we have seen on and off campus. All right, so just to give a really quick look at what it looks like at the UW context. So, UW is fairly large. We have lots of students, lots of graduate students, and quite a substantial portion of our graduate students, though I don't have the numbers for you today, are parents and caregivers. And they're a very valuable part of our community. And the reality is, being a parent or caregiver as a graduate student poses quite unique challenges and obstacles in addition to being a graduate student. Okay, so these are some of the issues that we've seen pop up either through hearing about it or through the research that the GSA conducted a while back. If you're interested in that, the report is on the GSA website, as well as some general issues that have popped up online. So one thing that we've seen students mention are, funding or financial support in general, not necessarily specific to UW, but just in general. Students who are parents or caregivers, you're not only funding yourself or paying for your own grocery bill, but of course you're trying to support maybe one child or a family and multiple kids. It could add up. So funding is an issue. Another issue potentially for some students may be academic isolation. So of course, when you are not only taking care of your own schedule, but finding the time for everyone else that you may be caring for, you may not always have the time as a parent or caregiver as a student to, make it out to all of these different social events or academic events, or you may have to miss a class from time to time, which may make students feel a little isolated. Another issue is finding daycare. So even in Waterloo region, spots for daycare facilities, they can be limited. Sometimes it's competitive, or you have to be put on long wait lists to be able to get into a daycare setting. And daycare can ultimately be fairly expensive and not always affordable for students. Another issue is housing. So when you're a student, you're not a parent or caregiver, it's, difficult enough to find housing as it is. But when you're now dealing with trying to find affordable housing for multiple people in your household or your family, that's just an extra challenge. And finding and navigating healthcare and insurance is another issue that has popped up. Juggling multiple schedules and needs. So like I mentioned, being a parent or a caregiver, you're not only just taking care of organizing your day and when you're going to school or when you have to work, but now you're also having to juggle, when your child has to go to school, or making their lunch and making sure they get to soccer practice, let's say after school, or anything else that they would need. Finding quiet work and study space. So of course, with the potential of having, especially toddlers or young kids around, it can be difficult to find a space where you can sit down and focus and get to your graduate studies. And navigating homeschooling during COVID. So of course, a lot of people have been put in the situation over the last year and a half when the schools have let out, where parents have had to step into the role of not only doing their work and their schooling during the day, but also having to navigate, making sure their child is on the online classrooms, dealing with their teachers and making sure their schoolwork gets done. So it's kind of like having to juggle all of these things. Finding time to take care of yourself. So again, this goes back to kind of like the juggling of multiple schedules. And I would imagine, as I mentioned before, I'm not a parent myself, but I can only imagine that for graduate students in general, it's already can be a challenge to find that time aside from your studies, aside from your work, to make sure you really, take a break, relax, and take time to do the things that you love or to improve your wellness. And it could be even, an extra challenge or extra obstacle to be doing that when you have extra responsibilities, like being a parent or a caregiver. And also I've heard of, sometimes it's a sense, challenge is a sense of guilt. So if you can't, because you're going through schooling, maybe you don't necessarily are able to afford putting a child in a specific soccer league or do a specific sport, or to be able to attend every single soccer game, anything along those lines. I know I'm using soccer a lot as an example. But yeah, you kind of get the point. So just a quick look at some of the resources that UW offers. We have financially some bursaries like the Graduate Student Daycare Bursary, Graduate Student Contingency Bursary for international students, Graduate Student Bursary for domestic students that you can look into. We have emergency loans. For housing, we have Columbia Lake Village, or CLV. We also have a family clinic that you can register your dependents at. You may also access things like counseling services or the grad student community conversation circles. Empower Me is also useful and can be accessed even if you're out of the province or out of the country. There's also the ability to get mini fridge loans if you're on campus through the equity office, if you're an individual who is breastfeeding. There's things like, food support service, where you can get food and hygiene hampers for free from Turnkey Desk. And of course, the Graduate Student Association, and we can try to help you as best as we can. If you need any sort of more information about any of these resources, feel free to reach out to me and we can work together. And just an idea of some off-campus resources, like parentingnow.ca for information, or some different counseling options or different people to call to be able to let you know about different options in the region, like Here 24/7 or Caregiving. We have family outreach programs in the region, housing programs to help. There's Waterloo Region daycare subsidies that some people may be eligible for. And there's also ways to find, free activities and groups and events that can be hosted by the municipalities for those who may be interested. So thank you for listening, for those who are listening to the recording, and I hope you have a great day. For those for sticking around for the event, I'm going to be stopping the recording now.